us today for the first time. We appreciate it. Thanks for putting it on your calendar. My name's Ryan Catherwood. I am your host today, coming to you live from the grounds of the University of Virginia here in Charlottesville. Advancement Live is a weekly show for higher ed professionals specializing in development, engagement, and communications work. We broadcast on the Higher Ed Live Network, which is a product of EdUniverse Media. Mark your calendars for Tuesdays, please, at 1 p.m. Eastern Time each week for another edition of Advancement Live on higheredlive.com. And you can also join in the back channel conversation, which is #AdvancementLive. This afternoon, I have an incredible show for you lined up. As you can see from the bottom of your live feed there, we've got a great group together with alumni professionals from around the country, including Gretchen Edwards from Wake Forest, Derrick Smith from Dartmouth, Chase Carter from Oklahoma State, Christine Scheirer from the University of Delaware, and our own Johanna Montague here from the University of Virginia to discuss one of Alumni Engagement's signature initiatives in the fall, which is homecoming, and how it connects to other young alumni programming that occurs in the fall as well. Without further ado, let me first give a shout out to our great sponsors, iModules. iModules software is the leading constituent engagement management provider for educational institutions. iModules delivers an integrated online platform that transforms how institutions strengthen constituent relationships and achieve fundraising success. Please do visit iModules' website and follow them, of course, on Twitter at iModules. So when I was thinking about putting together a show about homecoming, my thoughts went back to my childhood. And I grew up in Hanover, New Hampshire, which is the home of Dartmouth College. And the Dartmouth homecoming weekend was really sort of the signature event of the fall, even for the local community, well beyond just the Dartmouth alumni. And when I was in the 6th grade, we would all go with our friends to the Dartmouth bonfire, and Derrick will talk a little bit more about their programming. But there's a huge bonfire in the middle of the Dartmouth Green. And when I was in the 6th grade, I was playing Kill the Guy with the Ball. And this was in front of the thousands of people who were at the Dartmouth bonfire that particular evening. And I, of course, got tackled and broke my collarbone at the Dartmouth bonfire, and they had to cart me away in the ambulance, and it was a big mess. Everybody was mortified. I was crying. But when I think of homecoming traditions, there are a few out there that really capture, I think, the essence of homecoming, like Dartmouth does, and the bonfire, at least in my own memory. So when I got a chance to co-host Advancement Live, I wanted to think about putting a show about homecoming together, and I started to realize that at certain institutions, it's really all about a football game, as opposed to an entire scope and scale of events for a weekend. And for other institutions, the idea of homecoming is mixed in with a young alumni weekend of some sort, perhaps even a young alumni reunion weekend. So here to talk about the different programming at their institutions and the different strategies behind marketing and communications for homecoming and other young alumni events, I've got my pros here from Dartmouth, Wake Forest, Oklahoma State, Delaware, and of course here in Virginia. I do want to offer some bios of my guests. Please do bear with me. I have a good cast on the show today, so I will read some bios. Derrick Smith is the Assistant Director of Young Alumni and Student Programs at Dartmouth. Derrick received a BA in Spanish from Dartmouth in '07, and he returned back to Hanover in 2011, where he oversees the 10 youngest alumni classes at the Dartmouth Mini Reunion program. He is the advisor to the Hill Winds Society, which is Dartmouth's Student Alumni Ambassador Group. He is Sigma Phi Epsilon Fraternity and the Dartmouth Heirs Group. Gretchen Edwards is the Assistant Director of Digital Engagement at Wake Forest. She received her BA in History from Wake Forest in 2010 and has been with Wake Forest Alumni Relations since 2011. Gretchen is Wake Forest Community Manager, and she also manages the alumni website and develops other digital initiatives such as career-focused webinars to engage alumni. Christine Scheirer is the Associate Director of Reunion and Student Programs at the University of Delaware. Actually, both my parents went to the University of Delaware. Little known fact. But Christine received her BA in music and is pursuing her MBA, all at the University of Delaware. She has been working at UD in alumni relations since 2009 and runs the homecoming programs and co-manages Alumni Weekend. She loves to run and cook in whatever spare time she's got. Chase Carter is the Director of Communications for Oklahoma State University's Alumni Association over there in Stillwater. He received his bachelor's and master's degrees in journalism and communications from OSU and has been with the Alumni Association for 6 years, where he oversees electronic communications, social media, media relations, and a portion of the university's state magazine. And last but definitely not least is my colleague here, Johanna Montague. She's the Assistant Director for Reunions and Class Activities at the University of Virginia Alumni Association. She received her BA in Religious Studies and Sociology from UVA. Amongst her larger roles here, amongst UVA reunions, she oversees all communications, electronic, social media, and print related to reunions and class events for the university. Hey guys, how are we doing today?
Great.
Good. Wow.
Good.
Doing well.
Yeah, that was a mouthful, but I'm thrilled to have you guys. But I wanted to start with Derrick and Dartmouth, and let me just pull up a picture here quick if I can of the Dartmouth bonfire event so people out there can get a sense of what I'm talking about. This is everyone running around the Dartmouth bonfire in the middle of the green. This is right in the middle of the town. And so just to give you a visual image of where I broke my collarbone, this about 50 yards from this mass is where it happened. Derrick, if you could you talk to us a little bit about what homecoming means at Dartmouth College?
Certainly. Homecoming at Dartmouth is a time for Dartmouth students, alumni, and friends to come together and celebrate the Big Green spirit. It's a time to reconnect with friends and enjoy the amazing fall foliage and take part in time-honored traditions here at the college. Sorry.
Awesome. Yeah, and the Big Green spirit is definitely alive and well as far as I can remember. And it was really fond memories growing up and having the chance to go to all those events. In terms of the greatest event or programming that occurs during homecoming weekend, what would you say is sort of the featured signature events during the homecoming weekend?
I would say that our featured signature event during homecoming would be our Dartmouth Night celebration, which consists of a Friday night alumni parade, a bonfire, and the freshman suite. And the evening starts when hundreds of Dartmouth students and alumni and families parade together through the town on a path from the football field to Dartmouth Hall. The parade ends at Dartmouth Hall, and there the crowd is greeted by the Vice President of Alumni Relations, the head football coach, and the different team captains. They kick off the night with a series of speeches and basically getting the crowd amped up for the different sporting events that take place over the weekend. The night ends when the first year class arrive to the green and we light the bonfire. The first years run around the bonfire a total of 100 times plus their class year. So when I was a freshman, I ran around the bonfire 107 times, well, allegedly. And the freshman class this year will run around it 117 times.
I love it. And I, as someone who witnessed a large number of bonfire events every fall, there is nothing more visually compelling than all of those freshmen running around the bonfire, often with minimal clothing on, given their proximity to that fire.
It's very warm.
Yeah, it's very warm. Yeah, it's very warm. Derrick, how does homecoming fit under a more comprehensive young alumni engagement strategy at Dartmouth?
Okay. So homecoming acts as a centralized gathering point for Dartmouth young alumni. It offers me an opportunity to interact with a large number of young alums all at once and to remind them that their connections that they've made here at the college truly do last a lifetime. Many young alumni classes host mini reunions and tailgates during the weekend, with the largest typically being the Year Zero reunion. The Year Zero reunion is an event that the newly minted alumni class for the newly minted alumni class, hundreds of them come back to campus to celebrate their first homecoming as alumni, and the synergy from homecoming really helps me to energize young alumni and get them excited to come to events that are taking place all across the country during the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I love the idea of how homecomings at different institutions, including here at UVA, really works as this energy spark for various other alumni initiatives, whether they're happening around the country or for other initiatives that are occurring back on campus or here on grounds, as they say, at UVA. I wanted to open a question up here to the group. Could you guys actually talk a little bit more about feedback that you have received? I know, Christine, you had wanted to chime in here about what makes a great homecoming weekend and how that impacts some of the programming decision that you've made.
Sure. Okay, I'll start. At UD, we don't have a large homecoming tradition. Only in recent years have we started the homecoming, some new programming. So we've heard from alumni and students, for that matter, that they don't want to have programming during their tailgating time. That tailgating time is very precious to them. But over the past couple years, we've slowly added some programming, including a presidential tailgate for donors and different affinity tailgates who really want a tent and the whole programming aspect of tailgating. So that's something that we are careful about at UD, but are slowly adding in some affinity and donor events for homecoming.
Mm-hmm. Great. Gretchen?
Yeah, sure. So Wake Forest, we actually survey our attendees after homecoming. It's just an email survey. And we use that feedback to adjust small details like event times, how the process was picking up tickets at the welcome desk. We also ask about their reunion party, so that's specific to just the reunion classes. And this year we're actually going to start sending immediately after they register. We have a survey about their registration experience. We moved to a new tool, so we're interested to see how they like that.
Awesome. And Derrick, I'm realizing I hopped over a question here on our script, but which is a good one, and I was as I was reading it before. Could you talk a little bit about how the homecoming program has grown or changed over the years at Dartmouth? I really loved your answer.
Okay. Over the past few years, we've seen an increase in the number of alumni coming back to campus for homecoming festivities, and an increase in the number of mini reunions and class-specific gatherings that take place during that time. Very few structural events have changed at our homecoming in recent memory, except for the addition of the night football game, which has been made possible, I think it was 2 years ago, with the addition of lighting to our stadium, which I believe was an alumni gift.
Awesome. Yeah, and I love the idea that the programming, the official programming itself hasn't really branched out or blown up, but the informal programming, the get-togethers, the networking that's happening at your event is kind of taking on a life of its own, and that I think is a great indicator as to success measurements and some ways to be thinking about successful events on grounds or on campus. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about something important in terms of increasing your attendance, something that you've discovered over the last few years?
I think that with the increase in attendance over the past few years, we can say that despite the distance, the Dartmouth Alumni Connection is still strong and still growing. We're not the most convenient campus to get to if you've ever been to Dartmouth. We're about 2 hours from Boston, and then the next nearest major city is Montreal, which is like 3.5 hours away. But year after year, alumni come back and take part in traditions which they hold dear. Our survey data show that alumni really value the social aspects of campus events, and that the college is an important touchstone for them.
Awesome. Yeah, as a guy who grew up in Hanover and went to Hanover High, I can tell you that stretch of highway, once you crossed over the border of Vermont to get up into it, just seems to take forever. Yeah. You can never actually get to Hanover. You're still always an hour away. And kind of turning to my colleague here at UVA, Johanna, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Joanna's actually here around the corner from my office, so it's kind of funny. I don't know if she can actually hear me over there because I think I'm yelling pretty good right now.
I've got headphones in.
That's true. That's true. Me too. But Joanna, we've had a chance to chat in preparation for the show about homecomings. That's with an S on it here at the University of Virginia. Can you talk a little bit about the history of homecomings, kind of where it comes from, and how it's connected to young alumni reunions?
Yeah, so homecomings has only recently become a bigger weekend at UVA. Until the 1980s, early 90s, there were 4 primary social weekends at UVA. They were called openings, midwinters, Easters, and finals. Easters probably being the one that people from other universities have actually heard of. It was essentially a big party, often in a field that would get very muddy on Easter's weekend. It kind of has this reputation as an enormous frat party. But over time, those traditions died out, and homecomings have started to come a little bigger. However, this is primarily among the younger alumni. Our older alumni, for those older alumni, these older traditions are still the ones that really have a lot of meaning for them. And so initially there was some protest against creating a homecoming weekend because it didn't fit with the public Ivy culture of UVA. Now we're starting to shift from that, and we do have a homecomings weekend. And so since the 90s, it has become a larger weekend. But it's mostly for affinity groups and younger alumni. Our major reunion for alumni is actually in June. We have reunions weekend for the 5th through the 45th reunions in June, and then older than that is in May. Many of our student groups, Greek and otherwise, host events on homecomings weekend for their alumni. They utilize the gardens, all over grounds. It's really actually pretty wonderful. And this portion of the weekend is very student-led, which fits with UVA's philosophy of student self-governance. In terms of engaging young alumni, we started the Young Alumni Reunion in 2008 to engage the 4 most recently graduated classes, so kind of similar to that Year Zero reunion that Derrick talked about at Dartmouth. And the point here is to really keep them engaged with the university leading up to their 5th reunion. Since 2008, we call it YAR. YAR has grown from just this kind of post-game party with a couple hundred alumni to a much larger event that had this past fall over 3,000 alumni, and so we're really seeing it spike.
Yeah, fantastic. It was great learning about it. You had also mentioned when we were talking about it this pretty significant sort of discovery about how homecomings connects with YAR. How Young Alumni Reunions connects with the 5th year reunion class. Can you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, we've been really excited about this. So the Young Alumni Reunion in part began as a way to keep our excited and engaged graduates connected with the university leading up to their 5th reunion. At UVA, we have what's called the Post-CAD Trustees, which is really a group of about 70 alumni from the most recently graduated class who they work in their 4th year to really, build class unity, and then they try and keep the class engaged. And so in 2008, the class of 2008 was really the first class to experience this Young Alumni Reunion for every year until their 5th reunion. And we really saw the impact this year because there was a real jump in the 5th reunion numbers. They achieved 16.5% attendance, which is the highest attendance of a 5th reunion at UVA ever. And they had the highest overall percentage for all the classes from the 5th through the 45th at the most recent 2013 reunion. And then we talked with some of the 2008 grads, and we really found that they knew that the university could throw a great, fun event for them, and so the idea of transitioning to the a little bit older style reunions was actually something they were excited about, and they really wanted to come back for.
Yeah, I thought that was a really fantastic story that you told me, that Young Alumni Reunions really has the effect of ramping up that school spirit, pulls classes together, maybe even their leadership group together under the idea of the class activity, that 5th year reunion, that first big milestone reunion, and the Young Alumni Reunion here at UVA is a great mechanism to drive that attendance. Now, homecomings is a little bit different here, Joanna. Can you talk a little bit more about how you hope to connect homecomings in the future?
Yeah, as I said, so since homecomings is not like what it looks like at so many other universities, and it's really student-led, we're currently working with a team of students to try to establish some longer-term traditions that could be carried out year to year and not have to transition every year as new student leadership comes in. So as I said earlier, UVA really values student self-governance, and so homecomings itself will stay student-led, with the Young Alumni Reunion being the exception to that. And so what we're doing is basically we're trying to establish within one of the more permanent student structures basically a homecomings committee, and then from that we'd love to see all of the smaller events that have been going on with affinity, be it your sorority, fraternity, the Cabular Daily, which is our newspaper. We really want to see those grow so that homecomings weekend could become more of an affinity reunion. But that being said, something we're not looking into doing is moving reunions to homecomings weekend. Prior to when we expanded our reunions programming, we actually did do a couple of reunions on homecomings weekend. But since that time, there actually is not space in Charlottesville to host that number of alumni, and it also would take away from a lot of the events that we do on reunions weekend that have gotten positive feedback to have it on homecomings. And so at this point, we're going to keep those things separate.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother topic altogether, the idea of there not being actually enough accommodation space. And I'm looking at each of you in your cities, and it's entirely possible that there's a problem in that respect at each of one of your little close proximities. Maybe not so much Newark, Delaware, but perhaps certainly in Hanover, although it's getting better up there, I think.
Yeah.
But in Winston, and I don't know about Stillwater, you guys have a huge crowd, but that's another thing to be thinking about entirely together is there an opportunity to grow homecomings or a reunion program based on your actual logistical opportunities? And so as we're thinking about marketing and communication strategies to get people here to these events, obviously that's an important part to consider. But moving on sort of to pre-event communications and marketing, I want to bring in Christine from the University of Delaware. Hey, how's it going?
Good, great, thank you.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about selling homecomings at the university, or homecomings. See, Joanna, look what you did. I've got an S.
I know, I've switched it up.
Selling homecoming at the University of Delaware. How am I going to get my dad to come back down from Vermont to attend homecoming?
Sure. Well, the University of Delaware is very similar to the programs that you have at UVA, in that our alumni weekend is our biggest alumni event, and that happens in June as well. But we know that everyone cannot attend alumni weekend, so we have some programming that's similar to our alumni weekend programming as part of homecoming to really engage alumni. But because our alumni weekend is held when the students aren't here, a selling point for us is the student and alumni engagement. As I mentioned earlier, we have a pep rally that we just moved that used to be on Monday, but just literally got word today. Met with our athletics department. We're going to be moving our pep rally to Friday, and that will really help us engage both the student and alumni who are able to attend homecoming. We are also working on affinity reunions, similar to UVA. We have our 5 through 50 reunions at Alumni Weekend in June, so we really focus on affinity reunions because we don't have a very strong history of class engagement, but affinity engagement is very strong here, so we're really trying that angle at the University of Delaware.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so would you say that that's sort of one method that makes the University of Delaware's homecoming reunions unique?
I would say so, yeah. And a lot of the planning really only takes place during the summer. So, everyone has a budget, so we don't have a very large budget to mail for homecoming and our homecoming program. So we really utilize our social media presence as far as leading up to homecoming, starting now through October.
Right.
It's really important because our Office of Communications and Marketing, we work very closely with them. We have a good relationship with them. They handle the main UD social media, feeds, as well as the student social media feeds. So that's a very important aspect for us.
Awesome. And I wanted to open up a question here to Derrick and then Johanna. Can you guys talk about the marketing mix that you guys use for homecomings? What makes it work? What gets people to register?
Sure, I can start. Here at Dartmouth, we use a mix of promotion. We use email, volunteer publications, postcard invitations, print media, social media, and we even have a Dartmouth event app so that when you're on campus, you can quickly see what's happening where, and also there's a feature to see who is in town. We invest a lot of resources into having really strong photography, and we use image galleries to generate engagement and interest post-homecoming. The website and peer-to-peer promotions are extremely effective. Our Facebook advertising is an important driver in sending alumni to the site and generating awareness of things which are happening on campus.
Yeah, awesome. An app, huh?
Yeah.
There's another show there.
Yeah.
Johanna, what do we do here?
Yeah, we use a very similar mix of publication and promotional options to what Derrick just listed. I would say our most successful medium for homecomings is social media, particularly for the Young Alumni Reunion. I mentioned this earlier, but we utilize those post-grad trustees to make posts about the reunion, and then as a result of that, the event goes viral on Facebook and Twitter. And just as an example of that, we have, before we did any advertising for the Young Alumni Reunion coming this October, we only created the event on Facebook, and we got over 500 people saying they were coming with zero advertising. So it really is effective for us. So as I was saying, we'd attribute the attendance in 2000 of the class of 2000, or excuse me, since 2008, in large part to the conversation on social media about the event. And then during the event itself, we utilized hashtags to gather live tweets and respond to alumni's reactions, both positive and negative. And we have found this is a really great customer service tool. For the larger homecomings weekend, they have their own, the students manage their own Twitter handle, and it gets a bunch of followers for the weekend and then gets retweeted by the rest of the university's handles, and then they utilize hashtags as well, and so it kind of keeps everybody talking.
Awesome. Chase, you wanted to chime in here? How's it going?
Yeah, our experiences has been very similar. Definitely our electronic communications are by far the strongest way that we communicate with alumni about our homecoming festivities here. We're very lucky in that we don't have an attendance problem. Our homecoming is very well attended by tens of thousands, and so a lot of times the communications that we're using are trying to push out information about events with photos and videos that we've taken to share with those alumni who aren't able to come back. I think about the only thing we mail these days is an invitation to our class of 50, our 50-year reunion individuals, which this year is the class of 1968. We house all of our alumni reunion type events are housed at homecoming, which is very separate from UVA. I think that's the strongest thing we've heard from alumni in our past is that they don't want those reunions moved off of homecoming because homecoming is what they come back for. And so all of our colleges and their specific departments hold their reunions at homecoming. And so we do 2 email blasts, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. But definitely our digital communications is what helps us push homecoming.
Yeah, I can't wait for people to learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing at Oklahoma State. You guys have an unbelievable production that's really student-driven. But you know, I want to bring back the idea of email communication and marketing strategy for different demographics. As we laid out the talking points here on the sheet, Derrick, you were going to talk first about some of Dartmouth's.
Yeah. So we do have a communication strategy here at Dartmouth for getting people riled up for homecoming. We include links in our alumni e-newsletters about 2 months prior to the event. And we send an email to all alumni with links to websites and different photo galleries of things which are going to be happening on campus and have happened in homecomings past. Our email highlights mini reunions and social activities that are of particular interest to young alumni. Clubs, classes, and affiliated groups also use emails to market participation in alumni planned events.
Awesome. Chase?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, we have 2 specific emails that we send generally in August and September to all alumni on our database that promote homecoming. My background is in broadcast, and so for the past 5 years probably I've produced a video invitation for alumni that's included in that email, and that's one of the big reasons now that people open that email is because they want to see what type of video that we've produced for that year. So we send those out in the month before and 2 months before, And then, as I mentioned, we also send specific emails and mailed pieces targeted to our 50-year reunion grads. And then we also have an event called the Harvest Carnival, which is actually what started homecoming at OSU, and it is a carnival for children that's put on by the students on the Tuesday before homecoming. And so we do specific emails to alumni in the Stillwater area who are within a driving distance, because the majority of the alumni don't come back that soon. They're not here for the entire week. But those who can come back, we segment out individuals on our database who have children, and we email to them, and then we also take print pieces around to local schools and daycares to promote that event as well.
Wow, that's a comprehensive effort. I love the idea of the video, right? That people look forward to that video so much that there's an extra driver to check out the marketing materials. That's awesome.
Definitely. They always want to hear what song we pick, so the video is a big deal.
Okay, I like it. Another idea for higher ed out there. Christine, what's up at Delaware? How do you guys use email?
Sure. Similar to Chase, we have 4 all alumni emails that go out over a span of 2 months prior to homecoming. We announce we have a special homecoming website that's designed by our Office of Communications and Marketing. So we have an email that goes out to announce that that website is live and to register, and then just reminders leading up to homecoming. We also, our alumni regional clubs are extremely busy in the fall, and we utilize their emails and use PSs and kind of plug homecoming throughout that time as well. And then, of course, we segment emails with regards to which affinity groups are hosting homecoming programs throughout the weekend.
Yeah, there's a great opportunity there, I think, to reach out to the regional alumni groups or chapters, whatever you guys like to call them, and sort of build up momentum for on-campus events at the same time as correlating welcome to the city parties, perhaps, is one initiative we do here at the University of Virginia. But Gretchen, you had a couple of thoughts when it comes to emails, right?
Yeah, ours sound very similar to Christine and what you all do at UVA. So we send several all-alumni emails. One announces that our homecoming website, which is completely separate, announces that registration is open. And then we send 2 to 3 more reminders as homecoming approaches over the course of 3 months or so. And then our reunions team, they're also emailing pretty heavily their specific committees, and then the reunion committee members are also really doing that peer-to-peer marketing via email with the members of their class. So we generally give the reunion committees more information before the general alumni population, just to help make them feel like their volunteer role is appreciated as it is, and kind of give them a heads up of things before they go out.
Yeah, awesome. Joanna, I know that I was just talking about how my group here, the engagement office, is going to work with you guys to sort of communicate the fall spectrum of programming that includes young alumni reunions, homecoming, and then these welcome to the city parties throughout the fall. But could you talk a little bit about how you guys do emails?
Yeah, as Ryan just led into, we too utilize emails, but in this case there's not one email campaign for homecoming's weekend given the more decentralized nature of our weekend. We have 2 larger homecomings emails that highlight the events at Alumni Hall, which we have a larger tailgate available to everyone, and then also links to a directory of events throughout the weekend. So we basically create this online form where you can submit. All the fraternities, sororities, and other organizations can submit their events to it. Then in addition to that, several of the affinity groups send their own emails to the alumni. So basically anybody sending an event is probably going to be sending an email to the folks that they would invite to that. And then in addition to that, at Alumni Hall, we have a couple of tailgate-specific emails that are sent to a more targeted population. Totally separate from that is the campaign for the Young Alumni Reunion, where we do feature some of the other weekend events in those emails, but it's its own campaign.
Awesome. A big piece of the puzzle, I should say, is a content strategy, right? So it's all well and good to have email communications and social media, but what are you linking back to? I know Derrick talked about these really high-profile photo galleries. Chase, what do you guys do at Oklahoma State to use content to drive people to your homecoming-related material?
It's a good question. I'll talk a little bit later about how student-driven our homecoming is, but one of the committees of the more than 250 students that we have participating and working with homecoming is a publication and communications committee. And so I work with them very closely at the beginning of the semester, and they're the ones that prep all of the press releases and the news stories that relate to homecoming at OSU. And then in the weeks leading up to homecoming, we schedule those to publish on our iModules powered website. And so those publish automatically every day of homecoming, and they get pushed out to the main site, to our mobile site. And then, of course, we link all of our social media posts back to that main homecoming website. And it's been a really great tool for us to use. According to Google Analytics, our homecoming site by the end of the year racks up more visits than our main Alumni Association site, which I guess is a good thing if we're talking about homecoming. But we normally see a huge spike. That Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of homecoming, we receive over 20,000 visits to our homecoming website, and I think a lot of that is due in large part to the content that we're able to push out via our students who create most of it.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Thanks, Chase. Gretchen, talk to us about content at Wake Forest.
Yeah, and I think we'll touch more on this later, but just briefly, I really think it's important to leverage user-generated content as much as possible because our alumni and event attendees are really our eyes and ears, and they're seeing and sharing more than we really could over the course of the weekend. So one thing we're hoping to do this year is utilize social media event displays on screens at events where it's appropriate and really display their content they're sharing in real time. And hopefully that will encourage others to share as the weekend goes on.
And so the idea of sort of real-time sharing of content during the course of the weekend is a great marketing strategy. Well, the next question that we worked on preparing for the show was sort of 3 components of your social media strategy. Christine, could you talk to us a little bit about your 3?
Sure. For us, like I mentioned earlier, social media is huge at the University of Delaware. So we design for different demographics, students, obviously alumni, and even faculty and staff because we have some programs for them as well. Organic student social media is important. For example, we have Homecoming King and Queen, and they all create their own groups to vote for them, and that becomes very interactive. And then, of course, for our alumni side, we post old pictures and ask people to guess the year or the decade, and so that becomes very interactive. So we really try to let people talk about, we know that people like to talk about themselves, so we give them an opportunity to do that on social media.
Yes, fantastic. Derrick, what do you guys do up at Dartmouth? 3 things about social media.
Okay, so 3 things about social media which we do is to try to share the excitement of alumni events. So if you can't actually make it to Hanover and you're observing from afar, you can actually still feel like you're still there. We try to foster social interaction. So if we post or share something, it's not just a blank picture of the bonfire. It has some kind of appeal to it that will strike a conversation. And also we try to develop content with an emotional appeal. So we try to capture those moments that are happening, which people can relate to as well, which tug at their heartstrings and really make them feel nostalgic about the institution.
Tug at the heartstrings. Tug at the heartstrings. Gretchen, how about you guys?
Yeah, we just really want to encourage the social conversation among our alumni. As I said before, leverage the user-generated content, and then we also like to really look at what alumni are sharing, whether it's pictures or comments, and really learn from that and gauge the experience they're having.
And Johanna, I know that here at UVA we have really found some success with social media during the event. What is it we do here?
Yeah, we first try and foster a viral event discussion and sharing, very similar to what Christine mentioned about organic student social media. We also try and share pictures of the last year's event and encourage alumni to tag friends, so a lot of those pictures end up going viral as you have folks seeing themselves get tagged and maybe they missed the pictures last year. And then just more broadly, we really do whatever we can to build excitement for the event. So maybe it's doing what some of other of you have mentioned, of pulling out old pictures. Maybe it's doing a countdown to the game, depending on how the team's doing that year. But we really do whatever we can based on that weekend of how to build excitement.
Fantastic. Yeah, I enjoyed getting a chance to participate just in the reunions in the spring here at UVA. I'm still new to the university, but I look forward to the event-based marketing in-event marketing that happens during the young alumni reunions and homecoming. And actually, one of the first people that I reached out to when I was going to put together a show here about homecoming was my friend Gretchen at Wake Forest, because I noticed that last year they really did a nice Instagram contest during the course of the event. And so, Gretchen, I know we've already sort of touched about it a little bit, but can you talk a little bit more about social media before, during homecoming weekend?
Yeah, definitely. So we're really focusing on creating content right now that gets alumni excited about coming back. So one thing I did was really sort of just shamelessly ripped off BuzzFeed and created an animated GIF type post that was just 17 reasons you should come back for homecoming. I'm happy to share that link out with the higher ed live audience. And we released it when the date was announced, and it drove 1,300, a little over 1,300 page views to our site in under 5 hours. And that's actually a really big amount for us. And that was really just by being shared our alumni on social media. We hadn't even included it in the official registration email yet. And then during homecoming, we're really focusing on using social to just share what's happening at that time. So you touched on the Instagram contest, which we'll talk about, and that was really our most successful aspect of our social media strategy. We're still planning this year. We'll do something similar. And the main new thing I think that we'll try to do is really integrate those social media event displays. So whether that's at a reunion party, if we can even get maybe 1 or 2 set up in the tent for the tailgate, and we think those will just really drive even more participation on social.
Fantastic. Gretchen, what sort of feedback have you had from the social media that you guys have deployed? Anything new for this fall?
Yeah, so the feedback that we've had in the past has been really positive. Our theme for homecoming this year, which actually we work with our communications and marketing office, the university-wide office on, is Get Your Deke On. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with the mascot at Wake Forest, but it's the Demon Deacon. And so the way that it's spelled, it's like Deke on, if you can see what I'm saying. So everyone's been really excited about that. When we sent out the postcard, people were sort of sharing it online without being prompted. And so we're thinking about this year doing something around the idea of asking alumni to show us how they get their deke on. We don't know what we might get back if we do that, but like maybe even sending a top hat out to people and like a paper one, and getting them to take a photo with it before they come, or sort of having those around campus as homecoming is happening. So as far as really specifics go, we're still sort of working out those logistics, but we definitely want to have, similar to the Instagram contest, at least one major interactive social media activity for alumni of all ages and students to participate in.
I love the Get Your Deke On opportunity, and I just had a visual in my head of all of the top hats around campus and people having fun doing that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, whether it's a photo booth, we don't know yet, but we're excited about it.
And sort of part and parcel of a great social media strategy is effective use of hashtags, right, during the event. What have you guys done to sort of deploy a hashtag and get people to use it?
Definitely. We've done a few different things, and so I think we touched on it before, but it's an interesting role in that I sit in the alumni office, but I'm also our institution's community manager. So I've been able to learn a lot as we're doing events like commencement or homecoming for different audiences. And what I think the main takeaway is that you really cannot put the hashtag in front of your guests enough if you want them to use it. For homecoming this year, we've already put it on our paper mailers. Any of our big rotating, we call them billboard headers on the website, it's also on any of those related to homecoming. It's also already being included in the emails going out to alumni. Another thing that we did is we made the strategic decision last year to no longer or not include at all the year in the homecoming hashtag. We do that because as we're populating the website now with social media integration, not having the year allows us to pull in that content from last year. So as people are sharing this year, it'll become more current. But people, always like looking back on last year. So not having the year allows us to take advantage of the content that was already shared last year. And then with all that being said, making sure it's included in emails and online and you're promoting it, I really think the biggest driver of hashtag use for us is we make actual posters with the hashtag on them. So they're nice flyers and they're laminated or they're put in those dollar store frames that just sort of stand up and are like an 8.5 by 11. And we now make these for all of our major events. And so depending on the event, they say something like share your insert hashtag moments or memories with us. And they also include the social icons on them. We mainly just stick to Twitter and Instagram and Facebook now that Facebook has hashtags. But we put those everywhere, from the welcome table to our tailgate to the reunion parties, even our back to the classroom events. They're really put anywhere we think it makes sense to put them. And I think those physical signs are really the most important aspect of it. It catches alumni in the moment and reminds them, hey, we want to see, what you're saying and have you share your experience. And I think it really helps to engage those alumni that might be more observers on social. So those that are online a little bit, but they're never really going to share. They're just going to read what you have to say. So I think they help really sort of ramp up those alumni in the moment and get them to share their experience.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in there. And I think that the advice, if you were to give someone about using a hashtag, about not using it enough, you can't use it enough. You put it everywhere. Put it in all the bathrooms. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You can't put it in enough places to get people to use it and really have that ongoing conversation. Fantastic advice. Opening up the question of social media and in-event marketing to folks. The coolest thing that's happened so far after using social media during homecoming, Gretchen, actually, you had the first response here.
Sure, yeah. I'll talk a little bit about our Instagram contest.
Cool.
So last year we ran that Instagram contest, and that was really successful. We have about 2,500 alumni return to campus, and the contest generated 207 entries. So we thought that was a real significant portion of our audience. And we think the key to the contest was we really promoted it everywhere. It was included, a line about it was included on our physical hashtag signs. We had a blog post on our website that was shared heavily that outlined guidelines and how to enter, and it was very simple to enter. You just had to upload a photo and tag it and make sure your account was public. And then I think the key to really getting traction around it was at the end of the weekend, we did not just pick the winners ourselves. We actually narrowed it down to 16 finalists, and then we opened it up to alumni voting. And we conducted the voting on our website just using a simple WordPress Gravity form so people could select who they wanted. We did not restrict how many times they could vote. And for the week immediately following homecoming, unique visits were up 82% as compared to the week following homecoming the year before. And then we also saw a lot of alumni sharing online, so we would announce at so-and-so you're a finalist, and then we saw that alum saying, hey friends, vote for my photo. So it was really neat to see that conversation happening as well. And then each winner received just a really small sort of prize from the Deacon Shop, and we actually sent that them with a handwritten note thanking them for coming back and participating, just as sort of a nice offline touch.
That's some good digital engagement right there.
Wow.
I actually remember finding the Wake Forest Instagram contest when I was at Washington and Lee University looking for some interesting ideas for our own Young Alumni event last fall, and so that was absolutely a great model example, and everyone should give a try with an Instagram contest. I think it's low-hanging fruit for people, and I think a lot of young folks are already on Instagram. Christine, I think on our list we've got Chase and then Christine in terms of inside the weekend or the event social media marketing.
Yeah, we've used social media a lot to publicize our live streams that we host during homecoming. Our house decorations that our Greek Life work on, they spend several months, basically from the first week of school, which is coming up in 2 weeks, through homecoming, constructing their house decorations. And so we set up a webcam, a live webcam near one of the corners in the Greek neighborhood that records several of the houses working on those house decorations in the weeks leading up to homecoming. And we publicize that on a nearly daily basis on our Facebook and Twitter. And of course, the Greek houses themselves love to retweet, of course, using the hashtag. So last year we had over 5,000 hits on that one webcam that was set up during the house decoration construction. And then, of course, people who couldn't come back for walk around were able to watch it that night. And then the Saturday of homecoming, our School of Media and Strategic Communication students, they have for many years actually set up a remote television studio on Main Street in Stillwater and done a live broadcast of our homecoming parade. And the students, they have tryouts for the anchors, and the students run the cameras and everything. And recently, our university has kind of built their own online video portal called okstate.tv, and with their assistance, we've been able to start live streaming the parade as well. And last year, that received about 2,000 views during the parade, which was up from a couple of hundred just from the year before when we were trying to live stream it ourselves. So social media has definitely helped the live streaming capabilities of our homecoming festivities, and also being that it's on social media, all of the OSU colleges and departments can also help us in our efforts of getting these messaging out about these live streams.
Yeah, wow. Fantastic. Christine, I know you guys focus on the homecoming court, right, as a unique way to utilize social.
Sure, yeah. We brought that tradition back, believe it or not. The university stopped having homecoming king and queen in the 90s, and we brought it back last year for the first time. And like I mentioned earlier, the 12 finalists, 6 female, 6 male, really get into it with regard to social media. And on the Friday of homecoming week, the voting happens, and it's open 24 hours, and we had over 8,000 unique votes. Now that was open to the public as well as the student body, but there were 8,000 votes, and that was really exciting. That really showed us how social media and just word of mouth can really be really exciting. So that was something new and something we are definitely continuing this year.
Yeah, Derrick, in sort of our planning, you talked about moment-to-moment energy with respect to sort of social media in the event. What was that?
So we really like to take advantage of like the moment-to-moment energy by sharing photos in real time and watching alumni make the images which we are sharing part of their own communications and part of their own homecoming experience. Something that we do is we typically take a video, a quick video or a picture of the bonfire from the top of our college library while the tower is actually burning. And if you just watch the alumni reaction to it online, it's really quite amazing how quickly it goes viral.
Yeah, I would watch it, and I didn't go to Dartmouth. That's really cool. Joanna, what do we do here?
Yeah, so we have certainly used social media at events in the past, but we took it to a new level during our reunions weekend back in June using the hashtag UVA reunions. We'd had over 160,000 views on that hashtag, and it was really a great way to get alumni talking during the weekend. We set up a feed on our website that pulled in all the hashtags, and then it also provided us an opportunity to connect with alumni during the weekend. Not only were they connecting with each other, but when they had positive and negative experiences, we were responding to those and retweeting them. And so we actually had an issue where we solved a couple of potential problems over social media when somebody had a question. And so that was really a great experience for us. We plan to utilize the hashtag UVA this year, to monitor and promote it on both Twitter and Instagram, and we're kind of excited to just see how that blows up when you have such a young population using it versus a more mixed population at the larger reunions.
Fantastic. And the next question in our series was, what would you not do again? And I'm just looking at what was written down here, and everybody seems to be pretty happy with what they've been doing. So since we don't have any examples of what not to do, I wanted to go ahead and reintroduce Chase, Oklahoma State. When I was looking for examples of homecoming, the truth of it is I Googled awesome homecoming or something like that. And because I don't know, I didn't know who had really the flagship programs until I was looking into it, and Oklahoma State was one of the first to pop up. So, and I actually have a picture you sent me here today. Let me pull it up. This is from, I think you said, the walk around, right?
That's correct.
And if you can see this image of all the people that are cruising through the streets of Stillwater, I thought it was a really great image capturing the enthusiasm and energy around homecoming at Oklahoma State. But if you wouldn't mind, can you talk us through sort of the homecoming traditions and the resources? What makes it such an extravaganza?
Definitely. Oklahoma State's homecoming tradition dates back to 1913 for us. Our institution was only founded in 1890, so when homecoming came about, there were still, a majority of those first graduates who were still living within, driving distance of Stillwater and could come back. So it's been a tradition basically as long as we've been an institution, and it's grown very, very steadily through the years, and especially within the last decade. The biggest event that we host at homecoming is called Walk Around. We close off several blocks very close to campus in the Greek neighborhood and on campus. And last year we had 82,000 people, an estimated 82,000 people come back for Walk Around. And they come back primarily to view the very extravagant house decorations that our Greek life groups construct. And then also we put on display all of the parade floats that our residential halls construct. And then there's lots of vendors, have your photos made with our mascot. So it's a really big, exciting event that we're very proud of. In 1999, we were awarded the Case Circle of Excellence Award for our homecoming festivities, and about that time we adopted the slogan, America's Greatest Homecoming Celebration. So we don't claim to be the oldest, but we're pretty sure that we're one of the biggest, and we'd like to think of ourselves as the greatest. So today...
and that's how I found you, right?
Yeah, that's how you found us. So today it's grown from one event back in 1913 to usually about 10 days of events for alumni and students and friends of the university.
Yeah, fantastic. OSU football, I have to imagine, is the thing when it comes to homecoming. How does it play into homecoming weekend as far as popularity goes? Obviously, there's a little bit there with respect to how good the team is playing, particularly well over the last couple of years, if memory serves me. What is the communication strategy relevant to the actual sporting event?
Right. Football is definitely a big draw at Oklahoma State, especially very recently. Ranked preseason #1 in our conference this year, so we're very excited about that. So the alumni are definitely coming back for not only the homecoming festivities, but the football game as well. But to put things in perspective, our football stadium seats about 60,000, and we have about 80,000 come back for walk-around. So they're still pretty entrenched in the idea that they're coming back to be with their alma mater and with the people that they graduated with, and they're coming back for these events that we put on. But we do partner very closely with the OSU Athletic Department. Recently, we've been able to work with them to secure discounted tickets for our members. We're a dues-based alumni association. Those tickets actually went on sale last Thursday, and we sold out of our 1,000 discounted tickets in about 4 hours. So it's definitely a big draw, football, and coming back for walk around in the big game. It's a big deal at Oklahoma State.
It sounds like it, and I think, and I was reading about your program. You have a really elaborate effort to get students to be the driver of homecoming events. Can you talk a little bit about how students are involved?
Certainly, it has been and always will be a student-run event, homecoming at OSU. There's 3 main committees that are housed with and advised by the Alumni Association to put on homecoming. We have a 9-member executive team, and they oversee a steering committee of approximately 50 student volunteers that work throughout the year to put together the homecoming events. And then that steering committee works with approximately 200 students, which are housed in the big committee. And they are the real go-getters and grunt workers, so to speak. They're the ones that are manning all of those tables at the events, collecting canned goods at our Harvest Carnival, which also serves as a philanthropy to raise canned goods for a local food drive. There are also committees for public outreach that work with our local Stillwater businesses, University Spirit Committee, which works with all of the colleges on campus to help them get their decorations up for homecoming. Campus Life works with all of our residential halls. So it's definitely a student-run event. It starts all the way back in February when our executive team picks the theme that we get to announce in the spring. And obviously in the spring there's a lot of documents and forms that have to be updated by those student volunteers. One thing I mentioned earlier is there's a committee for publications that I work very closely with, and they produce a very high-quality homecoming publication, which includes stories about the class of the 50-year reunion of that class, all of the homecoming events for that year. And then we publish about 8,000 copies of that publication that are given out at all the events. And then we're also very lucky to work with our Stillwater Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they put that publication in every single hotel room in Stillwater that weekend. So the students are definitely the pride and joy of homecoming at OSU. We couldn't do it without them.
It sounds like a really intense and elaborate effort, and it's, I think of it, that's great lifetime engagement right there. Mm-hmm. Getting those students in, those students who are on those committees or participating are going to come back every single year. Those are going to be great loyal alumni over time. how does your office utilize volunteers during the actual event, and either from a communication standpoint or otherwise?
Yeah, the students are certainly volunteers. They do a majority of that work. That public outreach committee that I was talking about, they write a lot of the tweets that we will send out, at least the planned tweets during homecoming, and then I rely a lot on them and then our staff members as well to send me photos during the actual event that I'll post. At this point, we still don't give students control over our social media handles, and we still push out all of this homecoming information through our main Alumni Association channels. We haven't rebranded them yet as a homecoming specific, but we rely on those students to help us get that message out, to craft those messages. And then I also work with our OSU colleges and campuses to send them messages so that they can push out on their own channels during those days of homecoming.
Awesome. And Chase, we're up against the clock, so I wanted to ask you the last question there in terms of doing things differently. I know I read your response earlier today, and I thought it was fantastic. What are you guys going to do differently?
So this year we created a Homecoming to Remember giveaway with member in all caps to promote membership in the Alumni Association. We're giving away a 2-night hotel stay, game tickets, apparel, VIP seating at our homecoming parade, VIP photo session with our campus mascot, and we're giving one of those packages away to a member who signs up and one of those packages away to a new member who signs up. So that's gone very well so far. Then we're also working with a statewide television show called Discover Oklahoma that's put on by the Oklahoma Tourism Department, and we're going to have them come to Stillwater and do an entire show over homecoming, because we've gotten to the point now where if they're alumni, they're pretty much going to come back for homecoming if they're able to. But there's many of our events, like Walk Around and our Harvest Carnival, that are open to everyone, and they're for the community and for the state to enjoy. So we're working really hard with them to get the word out about the exciting activities that are here for homecoming in Stillwater.
I think a TV show is a great idea. I think that's a heck of a way to get the word out, and it's really impressive that that's an option for you guys, that you have a program of that kind of scope and scale. In terms of wrapping up the show, I hope everyone out there in higher ed and folks interested in alumni engagement work had an opportunity to listen to the show. We had a fantastic group out here on the program, and so I want to thank Chase, Christine, Derrick, Gretchen, and my colleague Johanna for their time today. Thanks so much, guys. It was fantastic to have you on. I thought that was an excellent, excellent Advancement Live broadcast, and I think everyone else out there will think the same. There's a lot going on when it comes to homecoming weekends. There's a real opportunity, I think, to develop a social media strategy, also as a marketing tool for other events that are occurring on campus or on grounds, as we see here at UVA. But with the student workers, there's also potential implications with respect to student engagement, lifetime engagement. So there really is a full scope and scale when it comes to the opportunities presented by some of these fall events. So thanks again to my guests. I do want to make sure to plug my colleague Andrew Gosen from Cornell, who will be hosting Back in the Chair next week on a great show about crowdfunding. I know everybody is, that is a hot topic right now, and Andrew is right at the forefront of the chatter about crowdfunding. So mark that on your calendars. That's next week, next Tuesday, 1 p.m. So for everybody here, I am Ryan Catherwood. Thanks again for tuning in to Advancement Live, and we're going to sign off. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, guys.